right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Comic character of the week here. We're going to be covering GrimJack. I'm your host, Alex Live Guy. Once again, down below Dan and Ric Flair of Comics and J Dub. So let's go ahead and dive in. I said J Dub. You're okay. I got you covered.
That's me.
Dan, give us the intro on this guy.
You don't tell me what to do.
Please.
I do. Give him the intro.
Please.
All right, let's see if I can pronounce all this right.
Give me $100
here. I don't know how to pronounce. All right, so his first appearance was in Star Slayer number 10 in November of 1983. Originally created by John Ostrander, but then when Timothy Truman came aboard, he said that Truman added so much to it that he had to make him a co-creator on it. But
very good.
And you look at it too, Star Slayer had a lot of first appearances in that book.
Yep.
So GrimJack is John Gaunt. Am I saying the name right?
Yes, John Gaunt.
All right. John Gaunt was born in the pits of Cynosure. His mother died giving birth to him, and his brothers hated him. I'm condensing this, this origin down as much as I can because there's a lot to it. So he's raised by an abusive father. His father ended up dying. His brothers and him had to survive on the street. His one brother hated him the most and blamed him for the father's death. And during one theft that they were doing, the person they were stealing from was killed. And when they went to escape, his brother Nick, who hated him the most, knocked him out and left him there to take the blame. He was sentenced to fight in the arena where he was from ages 8 to 22, which was essentially a forced gladiator pit. And he was known as, he was known there as Grinner. And he was the second best fighter that they had in the pit. And he eventually was kicked out of it because even though he's such a good fighter, he didn't put on a show with his kills and it didn't amuse people. So they got rid of him. After that, he wandered the pit. He ended up getting mortally wounded, and he stumbled into a hidden dimension of, I don't know how to pronounce this because I don't know why they were afraid of using vowels. P-D-U-Y-R. Pidward. Like a goddamn Russian word. Anyway, so he lived there, and he fell in love, but then they were having these thing called the Demon Wars that were going on all over Cynosure. So he left to go fight in those, and once they won them, he returned, but he found that his lover and her father and everyone there had been killed. The land was destroyed, and then so he went back to Cynosure, and he spent years working for various police agencies before going out on his own, becoming a gun for hire, and operating out of the bar he owned called Munden's Bar. There's a lot more to the origin than that. I just glossed over some points that we'll get into later, but that's the meat and potatoes of it. As far as powers, he doesn't really have powers. He's just a guy. He's a skilled fighter in hand-to-hand combat as well as weapons. Prefers to use his sword and various guns. He has minor magical abilities, but they only surface depending on where he is in Cynosure, because the great part about Cynosure is it is a dimension that has all these pocket dimensions that come in and out of it, and depending on where you are depends on essentially what the laws of reality are. So it could be the rule of magic in one spot, and 2 streets down it's all science, and then it can get all mixed up and intermingled.
Okay,
which I think is very cool.
Can I just say one thing? Every time we're saying Cynosure, all I can think of is Cynosure.
Cynosure.
Maybe that's who they would have cast. Maybe that's who the Russos would have cast to play GrimJack.
No,
they saw him in his Punisher costume, and they were like, "That's the guy.
That's the guy.
That's the guy himself."
Sonny lost the COVID.
Well, Sonny being such a versatile actor, I'm sure he could have done it.
I totally agree with that, Gary. Totally agree.
Yeah, we're gonna prop up our boy. Yep, he could have done it.
Before we jump into what's best, Jamie, tell us about Super Chats.
Oh, yeah. Guys, memberships and Super Chats are open. So if you guys want your comments highlighted, it costs as little as $1. We do have a lot in the chat now, so it's hard to keep up with everybody. And I'm sorry for that, but this is the best way we can do it. And also memberships right now. They are $3.99, cost of a comic, and you guys get exclusive content, top 10, we have a game show, giveaways. You guys are automatically entered into any giveaway that we do as long as you're a member. Mobius, if you hear this right now, you got to contact me because you were the winner from the last one. So
Oh yeah.
get a hold of us. And there's so much more. Every video we do, you guys get before anybody else gets to. So
Okay, very good. All right, so let's start. Our opening segment now is what works best with this character. And Uncle Gary, why don't you go ahead and kick us off for that?
Oh, this guy right here, not just a pretty face. What works best? GrimJack. This is noir, man. This is a hard-boiled detective tale. That's what he is. He's a detective with a side of mercenary in him, with a little bit of magic skills, a lot of attitude, former fighter. Definitely a character that has a code. He has a code. He's not just a stone cold killer. He's a person that, yes, he takes jobs for money, but he is going to look out for the little guy more than he will for for a Rich Pratt that walks in there and wants to get a job done. He has seen the worst of the world from fighting in the pits. He has been betrayed by his own family. So the family he surrounds himself with are those that he's gathered to be with him. He hangs out in this bar, and it's just a great classic private eye in an interdimensional city, proficient with the sword and with a blaster, and as a hand-to-hand combatant. He is not afraid to fight. He's not afraid of anything, and he will, when he's in the middle of a scrap, even when it's going poorly, and he throws his death's head grin on people. That's why he was called Grinner in the arena. When he throws that grin on you, whether he's winning or losing, it's time to kiss your ass goodbye. And he will dispatch you. And he's not above fighting dirty. But the difference between him and a character, and he usually tries to do the right thing, and he doesn't just do it for the thrill. He does it to help people, which is a little bit different from what, say, John Constantine does. Constantine does a lot of what he does out of ego and wanting to, put the demons down, damn the cost. So a lot of innocents get screwed when they mess with Constantine. That he's more worried about putting down the bad guy. GrimJack is worried about who hires him and what their motivations are, and doing the right thing in the end, and he will make the tough choice if need be. He is fearless, he is loyal to a fault, and he is just, guys, I hope you liked him. He is just one of my favorite characters, and for those of us that were around in the 80s reading independent comics like First, which was a great company, he's a character that still resonates strongly.
Yeah, this is definitely something I'm going to be picking up when I can, because you actually turned me on to the character and I actually do enjoy it. So I'm like, now I need it.
All the issues are affordable too.
They are affordable. Yeah. They're very affordable.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some lots on eBay that I might get where you can get one of them. You can get the first 12 issues for like $20 in shipping.
That's a bargain, bud.
Okay. I gotta check that out. Send me that link. I want to check that out too. All right,
so you know to work eBay.
Damn it, man! Give me the damn link already.
Give him the link, Dan.
All right, so I'll go next for this, and I gotta agree. I like this, and I saw this line in one of the when I was researching this guy. I saw this line. It says, "Who wouldn't want to read a comic about a pan-dimensional detective mercenary swashbuckler? That shit is awesome." And that sums up to a T. And this might be a little bit of a stretch, but he almost reminds me of Lobo. This reminds me of Lobo,
with a lot more honor. With a lot more honor.
A lot more honor. Yes, exactly.
And the city is a character. I think that is such a brilliant. When Ostrander first imagined it, it was going to be a futuristic Chicago. But once he and Truman got together, I think the idea that, like Dan said so eloquently in his introduction, one block is magic based. You walk into the next block, it's science-based, and that also, you have to be a really with-it cat to be able to navigate that and know, you talk about knowing your way around town. You got to know your way around town and all the interdimensions in it. So I just think it's a really fascinating concept.
And I was going to say, and the downside of it, though, is That's the reason it was out of print for so many years when first went out of business, because they didn't own Cynosure, because that was created before GrimJack, and it was I forget what the name of the book was, but I read that it was only supposed to be like appear in this one issue, and Ostrander was like, no, this is a cool concept, you should keep it going, and he set the story there. But then because of that, like, you know, it took him a long time to work out the details for where they could reprint it.
Reading it, just to say real fast, side tangent, sorry, it reminded me of, do you remember the Green Lantern Mosaic series?
John Stewart. Yep.
Yeah.
I remember that.
It reminded me so much of that.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
I was so connected with that. I was like, oh, it has that feel to it.
It did. I totally agree with that. And my last point was I have to agree with Gary about the sound with the different blocks and different avenues and different dimensions. You know, you have to know how to navigate them.
Maps.
As we said, Welb's maps. So
we do, Richard. That would help.
Just the maps, though, not his writing. Okay? Or else Tim will go off the handle on that.
Oh.
So,
yeah. Joe, if you're a fan of Ostrander and Truman, you must pick up this book.
Definitely.
But that's the thing. Like, there's only so much of Cynosure that you can map out, because it's always changing too.
Well, like one of the main characters there, in one dimension you're a god, in the next dimension you're a drunken bum.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, Tim, you love Zeb Wells. Okay, we know you do. Dan, why don't you go ahead and give us what you like about him best?
I like that he's a gun for hire, but he does have a moral compass. So, you know, he will ultimately do what's right. And some characters will do what's right, but you kind of got to, like, they do it begrudgingly. You got to push them to it. Like, he'll always do what he knows is right. And, you know, that's because he had this screwed up life and that, but, you know, he does still got to make money. And,
make the money.
You know, and I like that Cynosure too. I like the set, you know, how it has the setting of it is.
Good job, Joe.
Nice.
Good choice.
The setting of it is great because it opens it up to so many different genres that can intermingle. And you know, at its core, it is like a crime noir book, but it also has like government conspiracy stuff in it, and mysticism and magic and science fiction and, you know, superheroes. Like, it has
a little bit of everything.
You know, Western. It's got like every genre you can think of that can go from one to another. You know, from issue to issue, and it all, you know, and none of it feels like it's out of place. So I think that's a really cool idea. Like, even the way that he writes the you know, the book is, you know, very much like the old you know, like the old kind of crime noir novels were written, you know, where GrimJack is narrating it all himself from his point of view. And I did like something that I thought was funny when I was researching this, that someone wrote that he looks like, the way he's designed is that he looks like the most militant member of the E Street Band.
I kind of think that. I like that.
That's funny.
And, you know, when you're reading it, I've got to think that Frank Miller borrowed from this when he created Sin City. You know?
Tim,
oh, man.
You know that's not true.
And this is why I did it.
Yeah. Tim, we know that is not true, Tim. We know you love Zeb Wells. We've seen the shrine to Zeb Wells at, you know, in your place.
People are clamoring for Tim's comments.
I know. All right, Jamie, Dan, are you done with your what you like best?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what Joe said about First. Yeah, they did a lot of big. You know, before they went out of business, they were a pretty big independent company. They had GrimJack, they had American Flag, they had Badger, they had Star Slayer, they had the beginning of the Rocketeer.
John Sable.
Yeah, they had that. There's a few others I'm forgetting, but they had a lot of, like, you know, a lot of major creators that were doing a lot of, you know, at the time, some fairly well-known projects.
First Comics was a great independent title. Not a good independent. It was a great independent title. Had great creators, great stories. I mean, they were really something. They really were.
Awesome. All right, Jamie, let's hear what you like best about him.
All right, so you guys kind of touched on it a little bit. I just think he works best as a mercenary with a code. Being a former soldier and just having that sense of like honor, loyalty to those he actually considers close friends or even possibly family. I think Ostrander like highlights that in a great way, like putting him in situations where he's got to make like this tough moral choice or code, but he does still stand up for what he believes is right, even though he's got this like anti-hero persona. I see a lot in him. It still kind of baffles me to have him almost hit this line, but just go back to what he was.
Okay, very good. All right, so this moves on now to some badass moments. And I'm going to go ahead and kick us off here on badass moments because mine are kind of weak. I'll say that right off the bat, but I think they're pretty cool. So there was one story where he had to fight some killer rabbits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the line he comes up was, be very quiet. We're hunting lupos, which was the killer rabbits. The name of the killer rabbits since then. And these killer rabbits, they're not little innocent from like Monty Python killer rabbit. These are full on machine gun toting rabbits, which look pretty badass. But he's like, be very, very quiet. We're hunting lupos. Like that. And
Elmer Fudd.
Elmer Fudd. Me being a big Warner Brothers fan, that struck a chord with me.
Mm-hmm.
Next point I got is he was fighting Butcher Boy. And Butcher Boy's about to deliver the killing blow.
Yeah.
And Gaunt turns the tables on him because he fights dirty.
Yeah, he does.
And it looks like his eyes, he kind of just jams his hand right into his eyes like that. So that's why it kind of reminds me of Lobo, because Lobo's that type of dirty type of fighter. Yeah. But you're right. He does have a strong moral code when compared to Lobo. I think my dog has a better moral code than Lobo. But anyhow, I digress a little bit. So the last one I've got, someone's like asking him about him. He's like, call me a mercenary, call me an assassin, call me a villain. I'm all that and more, and that's an epic line for me. I mean, that's just great. Call me anything you want. I'm all that and more.
Those aren't good. Those aren't bad. Those aren't weak. Those are strong, buddy.
Thank you. Well, Gary, go ahead and give us your badass moments.
All right, here we go. And we will devolve into story time like it usually does with Uncle Gary time.
It does.
All right. First, in one of the early instances, just showing you're a god in one dimension, you may be a drunken bum in the other. There's a god named Zago, has like 6 arms. He kills Zago. He kills a god in a bar fight.
That's classic.
I think he's got 2 legs and 4 arms. Cuts off all 4 arms and kills it. And Zago is much more, much stronger than Jack is. But Jack cuts off 4 of his arms off and then kills him. So anytime you can kill a god in a bar fight, that's pretty badass. Yep. So now we're talking about John Gaunt, but part of the GrimJack series was, I believe it was issue 55. They time jumped 200 years. And Gaunt, because Gaunt has given up his time in heaven, the spirit of GrimJack gets reincarnated, and it's reincarnated into a character called James Twilly. And so the nickname of that in the series was he was Grim Jim Twilly. And Twilly, after his first kill, doesn't feel, he's got the bloodlust up and he's got the knife and he's made the first kill, but he looks in the mirror and things aren't quite right. Do you know what happens with this? What Twilly does?
Yeah, I know I just looked it up to be sure you're right. It's issue 55.
55. Twilly decides he doesn't look quite right, so he takes that knife and he goes and cuts the scar into his face, and then looks just right. I think that is badass. That is freaking badass. All right. Now it's story time. I know y'all like story.
Oh, sorry.
Time.
No, give us story time. It's all good.
Here we go, story time. Oh, look, it's my Legend of GrimJack Volume 2. Oh, look at all that signature and
that's all scribbles
by Truman, and Ostrander, and I believe I have Mike Gold in here somewhere too. Anyway, the editor. So, in the second issue of GrimJack, when he fights, that Sal alluded to, when he fights Butcher Boy, the reason he fights him is because he's taken on a client. This little fella down here in the little blue coat.
Yep.
He takes on a client. So,
that was the one for the dad, right?
yeah, for the dad. So, Jack's sitting here with Bob the Watch Lizard, and they're having a drink, and he said, the kid, the kid goes up to him here to Bob. He says, so, they said you're GrimJack. And GrimJack looks at the kid and says, so. He goes, they said you do stuff if people give you money. Is that true? And he says, sometimes. Why? He goes, cause my dad's gone off to get killed, and I want you to stop him. What's your name, kid? Seth Baylor. Me and my folks, we only moved here a little while ago on account of my dad lost his job. Mom says we're broke, but I got some money I've been saving. It's all I got. Is it enough? It's one little coin. And Jack's narration. The coin was a decicred, the smallest coin in Cynosure. But nobody had ever offered me their entire bankroll to hire me before. Made me feel overpaid. Come on, Seth. That is pretty badass.
Well,
Yep.
and then finish it. What happens at the end of the story?
Oh, well, with the money?
With the money.
So at the end of the story, so he ends up fighting Butcher Boy, who is a piece of work. And yeah, there's a scene where his eyes get messed up.
That's it. Yeah, just like smack.
But and he's got Gaunt in a tough place now. He's got him by
Right.
the hair. But there's money to be had in this, and this is Seth's dad here. Seth's dad would have been slaughtered in a minute. So so money is made on this fight, and he gets a stack of cash, and Gaunt hands it to the father says, I wouldn't have fared too well in there. Gaunt says he'd have slaughtered you. I suppose he would have maybe been better all around if he had. And Gaunt says, maybe. Listen, don't run off without taking your half. He goes, my half? He goes, yeah, 10,000 creds. I mean, you set up the fight, right? He goes, I don't know what to say or how to thank you. Just take care of the kid.
But
Bam.
I like that he, yeah.
Yeah. And so then we go back to the voiceover. He goes, I kept the decicred, point of honor between me and the kid. Besides, I earned it. That's pretty. And Dan, thank you for wanting the rest of that fleshed out. I think that did make it better. So yeah, so the kid gives him the smallest coin, a penny. Basically, gave him a penny to hire him, put his life on the line to save his dad. And GrimJack's philosophy is it's the smallest amount of money in Cynosure, but nobody ever given me their entire bankroll before. Nobody ever gave me all the money they have in the world. I think that's pretty freaking cool.
But I like the fact too that he kept it because they could have easily written it like, no, you keep it, I'll do it for free. But it adds that little bit to the story where so the kid has that going forward, like that I paid to get him to do this.
That's right, and the way when you're versed in Gaunt, Gaunt never spent that penny either. He would have kept that. That was the souvenir. And listen, you're right about the writing. I have a great love for John Ostrander, as I know y'all know how much I loved his Spectre series. Yeah. So Ostrander is amazing. I've met him a few times, and a hell of a guy. I met Truman numerous times, and I tell you what they had magic here, but that was great writing, and he kept it. It was a point of honor that he kept the decicred, as between me and the kid, and I earned it. You damn right. But the fact that he gave the father half of the 20,000 creds that he got from from killing Butcher Boy, it's pretty cool. But hey, you set up the fight.
Yeah, he earned it. He earned it.
You said I had to step in and fight so he didn't kill you, but you set up the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dan, why don't you go ahead and give us your badass moments?
All right, so one of them I'm going to have from really early in his appearances before his own book even started. So, like I said, his first appearance was in Star Slayer 10. And from Star Slayer 10 to 17, he appeared in a bunch of the backup stories, just like, like the Rocketeer appeared in the backup stories on there before getting his own book. So 10 through 17, he appeared in all these standalone backup stories. And then on 18, in 18, he was in the full Star Slayer book as part of the main story with them. And the main character, Star Slayer, gets captured, and his crew, basically hire GrimJack to come in and save him. So it shows, it's all in the same universe. And they offer him, they're like, the only thing we can give you is their ship, the Jolly Roger. That's the only thing they could. So they pay him with that. He fulfills the contract, saves him, but it's very early in the character's existence. So it shows what kind of character he is, where he looks at Starslayer, looks at the captain, he's like, give me 1 credit. He's like, what? Give me 1 credit. He goes, okay. And he's like, all right, ship's yours. So he essentially did all this work to save him, get him back essentially for 1 credit, because he knows, they can't do anything without this ship. So right off the bat, it shows that he's a badass for what he did to save him, but it shows, he's also not a dick. Like he's not going to screw someone over that he knows is a good person.
Well, he's not a dick, but he kind of he kind of gave the business to Tamara, who was captain of the ship. She had to agree to give him the ship, and then when he sold it back, he would not sell it to her. He sold it to Torrin McQuillan, who was Starslayer, for 1 credit. She goes, well, you're giving it to him? So he sold the ship to McQuillan, which was kind of funny. I think that was kind of GrimJack, kind of being a dick about it, but still, but in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, but it worked out because then they agreed to be co-captains.
Absolutely.
My next one is from GrimJack number 3. It's they were him and his, I guess you would call him his best friend, Blackjack Mac.
Blackjack Mac, yes.
Blackjack Mac.
That were fighting these guys, and one of them, they had been presumed dead for a while, and one of them was Blackjack's father, Macabre. And they've beaten him. They leave him there. The building's on fire, and Blackjack says to him, "Get out of here. Get out of here, old man. Get out of my face. Get out of my life. I don't ever want to see you again." Turns his back on him to walk away. So he goes, "As you wish, son," and pulls out a gun, and he's getting ready to shoot him in the back. And then the next panel, you just see GrimJack's sword coming down and just slices his hand off. And he said, "Be careful, Macabre. He may be the only blood relation left you got." And then there's a pile of these oxygen tanks, and there's a file, and the artwork in it graphically shows he's just got blood flowing out of where this wound is, where his hand's cut off as he's holding it, like and they
what was that sound effect again?
Yeah, get to the chopper, and they leave him in this. And they leave him in this room that's on fire right beside the stack of oxygen tanks with a grenade that he pulls the pin on and just sets it on there. And, and Blackjack goes like, "Oh, short fuse." And he's just like, "Yeah, I extended it 15 seconds. There's plenty of time." And the guy's just left sitting there like, "Oh, shit." Spoiler alert, he doesn't die because he appears many more times throughout the book. But I just thought that was badass that he's just like, "Oh, you think you got it?
Yeah.
Well, nope, there's your hand gone."
And we had a comment that he looked like, the name sounds like one of the blaxploitation film characters. Something. He was made to look that way too.
Yeah, and that's how he was written.
Yeah, and Blackjack Mac is a cool character, and his wife Goddess hates Gaunt, which is great. Hates GrimJack and the trouble he gets Blackjack into. But cool character, and Macabre was also one of the Dancer's lieutenants. So that's a whole interesting story too about the feud between Jack and the Dancer, and Dancer, who was the greatest fighter in the pit. GrimJack was the second greatest fighter, but I think it's great that he got kicked out because he just killed people. He would just dispatch him. He wasn't being fancy. Dancer toyed with his prey. And put on a show. He was an entertainer. Yeah.
Yes, entertainer. All right, Dan. Is that all you got? One more? Or?
Yeah, I got my third one. It's from.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Right towards the end of his series, from GrimJack 80. So, one thing with GrimJack is it's not told in a linear, the story's not told in a linear fashion. So when the story starts, you're just you're not even thrown into the middle of his life. You're thrown into like kind of the back half of his life. And it references all this stuff. It references the Demon Wars, and it references the pit, and it references, his brothers and his stuff growing up and all this stuff. But you never really see it until much later in the series, and you get stuff revealed to you little bit by little bit here and there until 50 issues later when they go, okay, we're going to tell you this. We're going to tell you this story about the demon, or 60 issues later, the story about the demon wars, and we're going to show you this stuff about his family. But one thing that was always clear is like he hated his brother Nick, and he's like, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to find him. I'm going to kill him. And then they had this storyline that ran through the not the main title, but it was the backup stories at the end of the book where he found his brothers, and then it was showing flashbacks of his life and as a kid and going into the pit and why he hated his brothers. And then in issue 80, they finally have the standoff where he finally does what he had been saying he was going to do his whole life since he was like, he killed his brother, which, it is pretty dark, but, you see what a POS his brother was, and he definitely had it coming. But I had that because they tried to turn the tables on him. They tried to fight dirty, but, in the end, he was the one that took care of business.
And, it was easy to call back a lot of this because Ostrander wrote every issue.
Yeah.
So, all this was in his head the whole time. So,
yeah, definitely. All right, Jamie, let's hear your badass moments.
Oh, it's my turn? Awesome.
Okay,
well, I was
moving on.
And then the next person. No, I was actually trying to impress Uncle Gary, and he had two of the ones that I had, and I'm kind of. I had the.
We'll talk about him anyway. Well, I had the fight, and I had him cutting his own face again because I thought all I kept remembering was like the Joker face kind of thing, where his face is off, he's got staples in it, but instead he's just taking a knife and going down. But I did also have real fast in issue 81 where he confronts Lord Dancer and basically just showing how he refuses to back down from anybody, but still tries to show that honor and just a brawl. Like, I thought that was one of the best fights I've seen in a while. Like, especially for that old, like that far back compared to now, it's still holds. And that's what Twilly looked like. He looked a little bit different. Yeah. But yeah.
So yeah, those are my three. I mean, Uncle Gary got my two. I was like, I got him. He's gonna be impressed, and then I was like,
oh, I'm impressed that you like those. Yeah.
Well, do you want to expand on them anyway, or do you think?
No, I think Uncle Gary covers everything so meticulously.
Of course he does. Of course,
it's hard to top. Like, I know once we get to recommended readings, I'm just gonna sit back and relax, and then once it gets to mine, and be like, what he said.
There you go. What he said.
Well, but keep in mind, this is a character I love.
I know, and the passion shows. Like,
and
I'm sitting here watching you get energetic. I want to go back and read it.
Well, I didn't even, like I said, I always threatened to do this, but I didn't think we would ever do this show with this character because he is so obscure, but y'all surprised me that you were up for the challenge and challenged me to make I think Dan just said, give us 2 weeks though. We need 2 weeks to start reading.
I still don't think 2 weeks was enough.
No, 2 weeks was not enough.
But it definitely was one of those cramming situations. I felt like I was back in college.
Mm-hmm. Like I said
everything in like a little bit of time.
I said before you got on, Gary, I said that I estimated that, because some of the stories were like backup stories, so they're not, so it takes like 3 backup stories to make one full issue. And, but I figured like between the regular series, the backup stories, the mini series, the graphic novel, the standalone one, that there were roughly 100 issues, maybe a little bit less of GrimJack. And in like the week and a half, I read about a third of them.
Wow. Nice. Yeah. As for Sonny,
literally like breaks, lunches. My life has been consumed by GrimJack.
Wow. Oh yeah. I was using my daughter's iPad so that I was sitting on the couch and just like pulling up there and just reading it on there.
Well, I appreciate y'all's dedication to it. I hope you ended up liking what you got into.
It's on my list to get now.
Yeah. Sonny wanted to know about how a fight between him and Heavy Flow would go. Let me tell you something. He would make her bleed from all the other parts of her body. That's what he would do to Heavy Flow.
I don't know if that's possible.
Ouch. All right, let's go ahead. All right, so let's go ahead and jump to our next segment, which is critiques and criticisms and what we don't like about the character. Dan, why don't you go ahead first on this one?
Not really so much the character itself. After Timothy Truman left the book, the artwork definitely took a dive down. Not Austrian. Mandrake was the best of the rest. His stuff was pretty good, but reading
Sutton was rough.
Yeah, like Pugh was okay, but he mostly, at least in the Youngblood storyline where it was dealing with the stuff. But yeah, like towards the end of the book, it was hard to read some of those stories because you're reading it and you're just thinking like, this was a professional art. Like, this is the artwork that gave independent comics back in the day a bad name because it was just clearly not up to the standard of the big two companies, and then especially the art that came before it. And yeah, so there was that, and other than that, that's kind of it. Some of the stuff seems a little bit dated, but for the most part, like it's good stuff, and it'd be interesting if they did some more because like I said earlier, the whole setting of Cynosure is a great place to have a story. And one thing that's cool too is it makes it easy to have any kind of crossover with any character from any company that you want. You just say like, oh, their dimension came into sync with Cynosure and they were there for 2 days, and then they got back, they went home, and then they're out of sync again, and that's it. Because they used to have the Munden's Bar backups where they would have different characters in there. They Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in there.
Well, that was one of their first appearances in color, if not the first color appearance.
Yeah, it was one of their first. So, it really just. What'd you say?
When I saw the whole Teenage Mutant Turtle thing, I was like, really?
Yeah. Like, so, yeah, I mean, it's really just the artwork after Truman left, Truman and then Ostrander, when they left, it just took a nosedive.
Oh, nice, Tim. I would love to see it. And Tim, they are affordable, brother. They're affordable.
He's lying. He's one of the comics sort of gets that well stuff.
Yeah, and you know why Truman left, right? The checks got funny. So first started going through some problems, and the checks weren't coming in, and so that's what ultimately made him leave that character that he founded, was that he co-created, was because they weren't paying him on time. So the independent companies they struggled. First was a really good company, had really great creators and all that, but the money got tight.
Yeah. All right, I will go next, and I kind of agree with Dan on this one. I don't really have anything wrong with the character himself, or even the way that he was written. I think that was, amazing and perfect, for this character. So I really have no criticisms of the way he was written. I just think that artwork did drop off at that point, and yeah, that was the only thing that really brought me down on this character. That was it.
I will say with the writing was good, but it's definitely not. If you're looking for a quick read, this is not the book for you.
It's a deep dive, and it's you know what? You try the character first. You get one of the trades, and if you dig the character, if you dig the the noir aspect of it, and that that's your genre, you jump in, and like Dan said, we go into westerns, we go into science, we go into sword and sorcery, we go into all these other, and sci-fi, we go into all these great things, but at its heart, it's a detective story, it's a noir story, is what it is.
My eyes are just finally stopped bleeding from reading all of it.
All right, Jamie, why don't you go ahead and give us your
so
critiques?
It's kind of a two-parter. So, but they go into each other, so bear with me. But I think,
popcorn, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be here a while.
No, I'm not like other people. So I feel like the complexity behind everything that goes on in the story itself kind of pulls away for the character. I get that it's part of GrimJack, and I get everything that went into detail for it, like everything changing. There's so many moving parts in this whole series. Like it's mind-blowing. But my biggest problem is probably the marketing for it, because it could have been more. It could have been bigger. And you had this great, amazing concept. that could have branched into so much more, but it just no. To me, with everything that was going on in the story, all the characters, everything about the different dimensions, every genre it covers, it was a great go for it as a whole. I'm not disagreeing with anybody. It's a great story. Check it out. But I just feel like it was swept under the rug, and the only time I've heard about it was from Uncle Gary, and now I kind of understand why. I had no knowledge of this character coming into, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Yep.
So now I'm like, how come we can't have a revival? Like, how come this can't be more? How come we can't bring these characters back to life? But there's no push behind it, and that's the sad part.
Right.
I agree.
And I think that's what kills the character.
And in the 80s, that type of genre, that type of stuff that they were going through,
it was out of the box,
time for
man. Like, it totally took everything you love about comics and amplified it.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, another genre we didn't even talk about was, the biker genre with Jericho Naleski. That was a whole nother cool character, that was introduced on the road to nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right, Uncle Gary, why don't you share what you don't like about him?
What I don't like, as far as the nuts and bolts of the book, I'm with Dan. When Truman left, the book really suffered. Sutton, I really, really struggled with his art. When we got to Mandrake, it stabilized, and I think Mandrake is pretty damn good. I'm a fan of Mandrake, and it's kind of interesting that Mandrake is the one that went along with Ostrander on that Epic Spectre run. They were the two creators that were behind that. So this was I believe this was their first time where they worked together. But Truman leaving, and and it is a complex. It's a deep dive of story. There's a whole lot of mythology behind that character, but I think he's a great character, and I think you get that because because you had the same writer. He was just building and building and building upon everything that Ostrander had written before. Because if you get a new writer, he's going to kind of go back to basics on the character, I think, and not be as in depth on everything that's built upon it. But because Ostrander wrote all 81 issues, I think that's why it just kept getting more and more complex. And I mean, you didn't even get all the backstory about his brothers and all till the end of the run when it was the backup feature. And another cool thing about the book was the Munden's Bar thing. That was such a cool backup feature, where all these characters that you wouldn't expect, like the Turtles, you wouldn't expect them to be there, and there they are, and it's just really cool. But the art that suffered after Truman left, and then the other criticism is that this character is nowhere to be found right now. I mean, it took them years to be able to reprint them, and finally, when they got the rights to having Cynosure in the book, they could reprint it, and and IDW did a hell of a job with them and did a good job printing all these, and almost all of them have been reprinted now. Not all of the Grim Jim Twilly stuff has been reprinted, and then so IDW was doing it with these books for a long time when they reprinted, and they had new issues. The Manx Cat was a new mini, Killer Instinct was a new mini, and they put those in additions. And then this comics mix started doing smaller sized trades of the books that hadn't been collected yet. But so this, I think we got almost all of them, but not quite all of them. I think there's like 15 or 20 issues that haven't been reprinted yet. But it's the lack of GrimJack around is my biggest criticism, because I think this is a great character. I think it's a great concept. The character design, I think he looks so cool, so badass. And just, I think, I just believe this could be a really great book if it was, if it was being sold now. And we have great independent companies now, IDW being one of them. I just don't know why we're not, why we can't have this, character be revitalized.
I mean, I guess that's really up to Ostrander and Truman right now, right? I mean,
I would think so.
They own it, so
yep.
So there's no licensing rights or anything like that. That's maybe
well. You know, they probably made a deal with the production company, with the Russos, right? So I would imagine maybe that's where those rights lie, but I don't know that would tie them up from creating a book about him right now.
Right,
but as far as I know, Ostrander and Truman, you know, are back to where they rightfully belong as the owners of this character.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So before we actually jump into our next segment, we got to take a 10-second break and talk about some sponsors. And Jamie, what do we got for sponsors tonight?
So first one we want to throw out, as always, you hear about it all the time, guys. Go check out W Energy. Go to w.gg and get your sample pack with a bunch of new flavors to try out. We here all love it and enjoy it. It has no jitters, no bad aftertaste, no crash. It's the best on the market right now, in our opinion. It keeps us going for these shows when we've had a long day. And trust me, we've had plenty of them.
Yes.
But guys, if you go to w.gg, you guys go to check out, type in the keyword down there, code -X, and save yourself 10% on your order in all orders moving forward. Remember, that's code -X at checkout.
I just ordered it. I'm
Absolutely.
waiting to get it in the mail.
Which
There you
flavor?
go.
I wanted to try the new one, cherry limeade. I'm a sucker for cherry limeade. So I've been saying since they started sponsoring us, I was like, y'all need to do a cherry limeade. So since they finally did it, I had to try it.
They listen to you.
I will report back once I receive it on how good it is.
You going to get a cut of that royalty?
I
I
doubt.
hope so.
I'll get a bright shiny nickel.
Yep. I like that, Keith.
Yeah, that's a good point, Keith.
I got a good one for mine. I don't think you guys are going to expect. But our second sponsor, I do want to throw out, guys, go check out Nirvana Comics, and you can check them out at nirvanacomicsknoxville.com. It's Tim's exclusive comic book shop, and they also participate with us in giveaways. We just did Feral, trying to remember what variant. It was their store exclusive variant. It's one of the homages for Fright Night. There we go.
Fright Night. Yep.
I couldn't remember what it was. I was like, Freddy Krueger? No, but Fright Night. And Mobius, again, if you're hearing this, you did win, man. Hit us up in the chat. Let us know so that way we can get it out to you. We're looking forward. But at Nirvana Comics, they have a comic for everyone, and they want to give it to you. So go check them out.
Awesome.
They're
Now,
currently siphoning power off of Sal's house.
There they are. They're siphoning power off of my house for some reason.
Yeah, they're like, no more slabs for you.
Sal's house is getting into sync with Cynosure, so he might disappear any minute.
I might. Jamie, don't do it. All right.
Yeah, no, it was a store exclusive Feral variant that we were doing a giveaway for. But remember, guys, also that if you are a member, you're automatically entered in for all of our giveaways. So that's another, goal for you.
And Bougie, it was an homage cover to the movie Fright Night. It really
it was
a Fright Night comic. It was an homage to the movie poster.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, speaking of posters,
The Fright Night was a great movie.
That was a great movie. Let's move into the top covers. And Dan, I got yours queued up, ready to go. So Dan,
Woo!
your covers.
All right, so all the way in the end, I got issue 1 of his first series. I mean, it just shows it right there. He's standing there. He's looking badass. He's got the sword. He's got the gun. He's got the mean look on his face. He's got the cigarette dangling out of his mouth. He's got that look. He's got that look on his face that he's tired of your shit, and you need to get his face with it. The middle one, I chose that one. There's actually a few covers with him that has like a skull in the background, but I wanted, I didn't want to pick all covers from his regular series. I wanted something from one of the newer ones, so I picked the one from Killer Instinct issue 1. You see him looking there badass, and then you got, his face there, and you got the skeleton face there too. I thought that was really cool. And then I've got, since I had the first issue, I got the cover of the last issue, and I just love how it's, that black and white with that, but it's, like the black and the white are reversed. And
it's like a negative.
Yeah, exactly. Negative. That's what I was, the word.
And the red eyes.
Yeah, and then it's got the red eyes that are the little skulls, and then they pop, and then the red and the yellow, logo just really popped too. And yeah, that's one of those covers you just see it on the shelf and you're like, man, I got to check out what this is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are cool covers, definitely. All right, so I will go next for top covers, and here we go. So we got
Nice.
GrimJack number 48. Of course, I don't know if it's Mandrake, but I like these. Like it was a dinosaur mouth or some type of lizard mouth, but he's there holding the jaws open. That's always an epic shot, no matter what. I love that. That's great. The middle book, I believe. What number was that one? I can't tell. Killer Instinct. Oh yeah, number 6. GrimJack number 6. And this was a Truman book, but I just like the cover because it's almost like Dan's first book. He's there. He's got the look on his face. He's got the dual swords. He's not going to take any shit.
He's ready. He's ready.
And I guess the villain was the vampire in this one, where she was there lurking in the background. I like the fire effect with that. So badass cover.
Jack doesn't like vampires, if we find out here. He does not like them at all.
I don't like them at all, definitely. And my last one here is GrimJack number 24. I believe, is that 24?
Yep, that's 24.
Yep, that's 24. I guess I have my notes. So, artist on this was Paul Smith, and I'm sorry, the artist was Truman for this one. But still like it because it's got the pump shotgun in one hand, the sword in the other, and of course the cigarette in the yap.
Yeah.
And of course he's got some pockets there, but they're proportionally correct.
You gotta have pockets.
But you gotta have pockets. Where are you gonna keep your cigarettes, man?
There's not an issue with characters having pouches if it actually makes sense with them and it's something they would use. And a character like him, that he's actually has stuff in the pouches that he's using, as opposed to some of these other characters where you're like, why do some of these guys need to have 8 million pouches on them?
One of the pouches has got to have cigarettes in it.
Got to have cigarettes.
Yeah.
Got to. All right, Jamie, I have yours queued up.
Those are good, man. Good job. Both you guys have done good so far.
Thank you. All right, Jamie, here's your top covers.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Yeah. So we talked about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cover. I just thought this was like barbaric almost. Like it's issue 26 and just like the lasers coming out of the eyes, it just brings you in. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
In just this one.
I love that logo too. I love the classic logo.
Oh yeah. 100%. And then next up I got the same one Dan had, which was issue 81. It's that negative look and
those are always cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like it reminded me of what was it? Amazing Spider-Man 55? The Gleason cover?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
But yeah, the portrait covers,
Yeah. Yeah. So it reminded me so much of it. I was like, I need to take that one. And honestly, the last one, the only reason I picked it was for Uncle Gary.
Hey, but she's very fetching.
Yes. And I was like, if I don't put this up there, I think Uncle Gary would be disappointed in me.
Well, that's
that middle issue. I forgot to ask this when Dan had it up. What's in the reflection of his eyes?
It's the skull, like the death.
With skulls.
It's another skull. Okay.
Yeah, it's the skulls.
Oh, very cool. All right, let's go to Uncle Gary now. Here comes your covers. Boom.
There we go, baby. All right.
Oh, I almost chose that one on the right. Oh, I almost did.
Yeah, Dan.
Yeah, that was one of my final ones too. But Gary said he was going to pick it, so I was like, all right.
That may be my favorite GrimJack cover, by the way. So, so starting all the way on the right, that's GrimJack 3. I just think that is badass. And in the background, you got Blackjack Mac. I love the flyers on the brick wall, and he's just gazing around that building, getting ready to get a shot off. And again, the cigarette. I mean, the cigarette dangling out of his mouth always looks so freaking cool.
It
So,
does.
and that's just a great. I mean, to have that cover displayed looks so good. When I've had it out.
This really reminds me of like X-Men 141 with the wanted posters, or the death posters with the X-Men in the back. That kind of reminds me of that. How it looks like that.
Well, and he's got a couple great Western covers. I think it's 11 or 10 where it says the Law Killers on it. He's got the trench coat. He's got the long trench coat that's just really cool, looking like a gunfighter that he is. And then, of course, number 1, the first issue of his own title. I love that classic logo. I love how the dot of the eye is, where it's a diamond, sideways diamond. I really think that's a cool aspect of that. And the ad for this, the in-house ads that would show this image would say for first it would say not just another pretty face, GrimJack. So I just think that's great. I have a signed poster by Truman from the premiere of that book, and it's on my wall in the library, and so that's kind of cool that I have a signed picture of that image. And then the one on the far left is his first cover. And that's Truman again doing that, and it's with Star Slayer, and it's Star Slayer 18, and that was a full-length story. That's the one where he got the ship from that Torrin McQuillan used, that Tamara was captain of, and he sold it back to Torrin at the end for a single credit. But I just think that's a cool image of the two of them together, and Truman and Ostrander were doing both books for a while there. They were doing Star Slayer and GrimJack. So they were pumping out some double duty there, man, to get both those books out.
He kind of looks like a vampire in that one.
He does. It's a kind of a different look for him on that cover, without the hat and all, and the street, he's got his face is a little paler than normal, but I think it's the lighting, and he doesn't have his hat on. But I still think it's a really cool image of the two of them.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So those are
Uncle Gary. Let me ask you this, Uncle Gary. Do you think the G in Grim looks like an axe?
You know what?
I was going through these covers and I'm like, man, this looks like an axe to me. Whenever I was looking at that,
it does, and I never considered that. But that's a very cool point. I like that. Yeah, it looks like a little handle there, and it does look like an axe.
In the Star Slayer cover, he kind of looks like a badass version of the grandpa from Munsters.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. It's that white streak through his hair.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Again, he's not somebody you want to play with.
No,
yep, that's true. All right, awesome covers, Uncle Gary. Very good stuff.
You.
Very good stuff. All right. Moving on to our next segment now is our essential readings. And Uncle Gary, I want you to kick us off with essential readings because you're the man with this character. So
yeah, and you can cover most of them in one shot.
He's going to be like, all right, so it's GrimJack issues 1 through 81.
He's going to pull an Archduke. He's going to pull an Archduke on us, isn't he?
I did not do that.
Just read the whole series. And
so let me show you something that's kind of cool here. So this is GrimJack. This is the hardcover version when they did Legend of GrimJack. Volume 1 you could have in hardcover or softcover. It had a book plate in it, and Truman signed it. And you know how you always want the lower than high? This is $9.96 out of 1,000, which is really cool. And then I got Tim to draw that for me.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
He drew Bob the Watch Lizard.
Is he smoking a cigarette too?
Yes, he is. And
he's saying beer.
He's saying beer, which
nice.
is what motivates Bob. So Truman drew that for me, which is really cool. So I've had a pretty good. I think he's got another book where he says "To my man, Gary." So that's pretty awesome. But my recommended reading.
All right, I'll pull up the chart here.
Yep. Let's go. Oh, love it. That's a great picture of him holding the Manx cat, and that gets us into the Manx cat, and it's actually MANX. It's MANX for Manx cat, but that's just fine when you're looking for it. And it's really so. The Manx cat, the original story was one of the backup stories that ran for a few issues, or it was the beginning of one of the backup stories that ran in the back of Star Slayer, and later on they revisited it and gave the whole story to the Manx cat. And it's not just a MacGuffin like the Maltese Falcon was. You find out that there's something to that cat statuette that's a little malevolent. So it's a really cool mini series by Ostrander and Truman. When IDW got the rights to it, and I want to say that was around 2007, maybe. Maybe it was later. One was 2007. The other was 2011. The other one is GrimJack Killer Instinct. And that got into kind of why he doesn't like vampires. There's a whole lot of that in there.
Yeah.
But Ostrander and Truman again is a great mini, and Max Cat and Killer Instinct happened. Probably I want to say, like I said, I think one was like 2007 or so, and the other one might have been 2011. So these are more modern tellings of it with better art, better paper. So Ostrander and Truman got to go back and revisit this character, and they did it in a big, big way, which was pretty awesome. And these came on at the same time where they were reprinting the original stories, so there was some symmetry there and synergy there where they were trying to tie them both together. And then at the bottom I've got GrimJack. I thought about just putting GrimJack 2, the story of where the little boy hires him and he goes fights Butcher Boy and all that. But those early issues, there's such mythology to them. I wanted to put the entire run of the all the issues that leading up through 21. Truman left in 19, and then he came back and did a small short story in 24. That was the cover that Sal showed, the anniversary issue cover. But pretty much he was done with 19, and the story went on until issue 21. So that's why I have till 21. Issue 20 and 21, the art's not so great. It's Sutton, but it's still a pretty cool story that GrimJack was in. You get into the mythology of, you meet Blackjack Mac, you meet Jericho Noleski, you meet, you're meeting Roscoe Shoemaker, his old cop. You run into Major Lash, from the Law Killers group he ran with for a while. And it just, it's just getting you, you need those issues to get immersed into the mythology of GrimJack. So that's why I picked those.
All right, I just looked it up. Killer Instinct was 2004, and the Manx Cat was 2009.
Okay, there you go. So not quite right, but in the same, after the year 2000 at least, 2004, 2009. So thanks for looking for those. So those are more modern retellings, and they look good. Those books look really good, and they're collected in nice trade paperbacks, or if you wish, pick them up in their single issues, and they are not expensive.
Cool. All right, Dan, let me pull yours up here because I want you to go next. Recommended things.
All right, so I'll talk about mine, and I'll start at the bottom. I got GrimJack Case Files. So what that was a 5-issue miniseries that reprinted all of the Star Slayer, all the backup stories from Star Slayer, and the first few issues of his series. So it's the backup stories from Star Slayer 10 through
18,
10 through 17, and the full issue of 18.
Yep.
And then the first, it's like 3 or 5 issues, or like the first 3 or so issues of his regular series. But I got that because it's the introduction to the character, and especially in those backup stories, even though they were only about 8 pages or long or so for each one was like a very different thing. So it let you know right off the bat, pretty much to expect any kind of genre, any kind of thing thrown at you with this character. And then most of not all of, but most of the cast of characters that were important to him are introduced in those issues as well. And then I've got Demon Wars, which ran through GrimJack issues 66 through 69. And like I said earlier,
Sorry.
As I said earlier, like GrimJack was not told in a linear way. So even though the Demon Wars was something that was very often referenced throughout the series, and it was a very major part of his life and of a lot of the other characters, they didn't really delve into it until late in the series. So issue 66 through 69, you actually get to see the Demon Wars. You get to see him go to that one dimension that, they did not put any vowels in their name, and find happiness, and then come back, fight the Demon Wars, how that shaped his life, and then, led to where he was when we first see him, when the series first picked up. And then Killer Instinct, like Gary said, it was one of the newer series that they did through IDW, and this series takes place before you first see his first appearance in Star Slayer. and it doesn't lead. It doesn't like lead directly up to where he was in Star Slayer, but kind of just before that. And the artwork in it by Truman, like the artwork by Truman was always great, but it looked really spectacular in Killer Instinct now that they had higher quality paper and better printing techniques. The art really shined.
Yeah, absolutely,
Definitely. All right, good stuff. Good readings there, and I will bring mine up next. There I am. Boom. There we are. Oops, there we go. Well, I'll jump right to the middle one. I'm not gonna dwell on this one too long because Dan and Gary both explained this one pretty damn well. It's a great story. You need to check this one out for sure. I also chose GrimJack Buried Past, and that's issues 10 to 16, I believe. And I like this section because he was hunting a vampire with each chapter, and until he gets them all, and they did a good job of doing this because each chapter is in each issue as opposed to one comic book just sliced up across several different backups in other books. So I like the way that was presented. So he's hunting down vampires in the story. He's got his resurrected friend as well with this, and he's working against the clock. And when his friend's completely turned, you don't know until the very end. But it's a great story. I think you should check that one out.
He doesn't like vampires, Sal.
He does not like vampires at all.
Not like vampires.
Yep. And I just like how he fights a different vampire with every issue or every chapter. So my last one, I chose GrimJack 1 through 5 because I like me being personally when I'm coming new to a character that I don't know anything about. I go right to the very first issues of him or them to get a full understanding of how this character was supposed to be fleshed out, you might say. So it doesn't matter what he evolves into or what iterations he becomes. I want to see the original. I want to see how it was done originally, and this captures it. And you could probably go more than 5 issues, but I only put down 1 through 5 because I don't want to overwhelm a new reader coming to this situation. But this is a great beginning for this character. It gives you really good detail on who he is, how he starts out, and why he is. So definitely check this one out. All right, Jamie, you are next. Let me find yours. There you are. Boom.
Yeah, so pretty much the same as everybody. Mace Cat, Killer Instinct, and Demon Wars. I really did enjoy Demon Wars. If I had to recommend one, it'd be that for me. Killer Instinct I did enjoy, but if I had to pick one, it'd be Demon Wars.
There you go. Very good. So what hey Colossus,
hey,
how you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's going on?
What's going on, bud?
I will say I'll throw this out since I was hoping somebody else would have it in. There was one that was the last one that dropped off that was hard to, which was the Youngblood storyline that ran through the backup stories in the last 10 or so issues of his book. That shows, if you want to see the stuff that he's talked about through his book, where you see his childhood, you see his family, you see how he went into the pit, everything that happened to him when he came out of it and confronted his brothers. That's definitely a good storyline to read there too.
Yeah. So, quick question before I go off screen here. Do you think he's going to use that sword to whack the guy in the nuts, give him a nice
He's gonna neuter him.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's about to change his religion.
He's fighting dirty, which was the way we like it.
He's gonna cut them onions.
Gonna cut some onions.
And he won't be the one crying. It'll be the other fellow will be crying.
So let's go on to our next segment. This is going to be an easy one. This is best author and best artist. We're all going to have the same ones. But if you guys want to throw in who you think should write them, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Jamie, I'll let you start this one.
All right. So for my writer, I think Jerry Duggan would do a great job. Okay. I think everything he's done, like in the X titles, I think that would fit perfectly for it. And I would love to see Liam Sharp on art.
But you hate the X-Men.
I know, but he actually did a good job. And he did a good job on Savage Avengers, too. Well, he had to write Conan.
I think Sharp is very interesting, and he does some sci-fi stuff. Now, but I will say this. I know we're doing it this way, but I guess we are all in agreement that the best writer, best artist would be John Ostrander, Tim Truman, no deviations, right?
No, I mean, John
Yeah.
Ostrander's the only one that wrote him
The only one.
outside of Kim Yale, like co-writing some of the later stuff. Like, he's the only one that you can choose.
Right.
You know?
And with artists, I would think we were all locked into Tim Truman.
Yeah.
I mean, Mandrake. if Truman's a 10,
Mandrake's if not for
Mandrake-
Truman, it would be Mandrake.
yeah,
Right.
like if Truman's a 10, Mandrake's like an 8.5.
I agree.
He's not far behind him, but it's still the Truman Show.
And just God, Truman's work on Jonah Hex, I love so much too.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. And Scout. Yeah, there's another one I'll throw at you. Scout one day.
He's someone whose art great, and all these artists grow over time, but he's someone whose art greatly benefited from modern, printing techniques and
I agree.
not just higher quality paper, but higher quality scans and stuff. Because you look at, his later stuff and his early stuff, and you could tell with the early stuff, like there's stuff there that's just getting lost in the printing.
Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely. So, Dan, do you have any other suggestions, or was that?
Yeah, for my writer, I picked Mark Millar because you read all the Millarverse stuff. He's adept in writing many different genres, which is something that I think that you need with GrimJack, just because of the nature of Cynosure, that you have to be able to do all of these different genres, and sometimes you have to be able to do all these different genres within the same story. So, Millar has proven that he can write big stories, that he can do different genres, and so that's why I picked him. I almost picked Ed Brubaker just because of the noir factor, but the fact that Millar, like I said, can handle all the different genres, that's why I picked him. And for artist, I'd like to see Gary Frank take a look at him, because I think
I like that.
He's got a very detailed style. Truman has a very detailed style too, and I like Frank's detailed style, but he's got a real kind of grittiness that he can have to his work too, that I think would be really good on this character.
I like that choice. I think Gary Frank would be fantastic.
Yeah. All right. For me, I don't know. I thought about this one. It was kind of hard for me to put in for the style, but I would actually go with the Simonsons and see what they would do with this character, and also Frank Miller. I wouldn't mind seeing some Frank Miller action on this as well.
Well, again, I think Frank Miller took a lot of inspiration from Truman from his Sin City that he took from this.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking from Sin City.
Well, if it's Frank Miller drawing him, it's got to be Frank Miller from like 25 years ago.
I agree. Not his current stuff. Not his current stuff. Did we put up Bougie's comment there? Did you show that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I missed it. I'm sorry. But yep, good point, Bougie. Good.
What did he say?
I can see. I'll put it back up.
There.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's also true. He also threw up another one. Threw up that comment there. Garth Ennis.
Yeah.
Oh, you took it from me, Bougie. Ennis was going to be mine.
Yep. Okay. So this goes ahead.
Well,
who else has you got, Gary?
Yeah. I also think that Brubaker is an excellent choice, but for me, it would have been Garth Ennis, and for an artist, it would have been Michael Kaluta.
Oh.
Okay.
So Kaluta drew a lot of issues of the Shadow, the DC Shadow run.
Mm-hmm.
He and he and Wrightson were really tight friends. They would a lot of times they would ink each other's work and all that. But I think Kaluta can draw a character like that really well. Deals with Shadow, deals with sword play and things like that. I think that is right in Kaluta's wheelhouse. And Kaluta did a lot of the horror books too. And GrimJack has a horror feel to it in a lot of ways. So I think an Ennis Kaluta book would be amazing. I don't even know if Kaluta's working anymore, but I would love to see that book.
Yep. Sorry, Gary. I thought you had gone with your picks already. So sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay.
All right.
That's okay, Bougie. Listen, I'm glad. Listen, this you had that idea. That was great. These fellows know that I'm an Ennis freak, so that it was probably going to come up anyway. So you did good, my brother, and I think it's an excellent choice. I think Ennis would you write the hell out of this character. Oh man.
Yeah. Alan Moore.
Yeah.
You know what? I can't guess anything Alan Moore wants to do. So you
Yeah,
know,
no, I was going to say
Nobody-
pre or post.
nobody
like,
can predict.
losing
I
it.
mean, if he wanted to write it, he'd do a hell of a job. But what the hell does Alan Moore want to do?
I think all Alan Moore wants to do is sit around and complain now. Though, let's be fair, the comic industry has screwed him over multiple times.
Yeah.
True. I thought Tim would be rooting for Zeb Wells to be writing them. You know.
Lots of
Tim
math.
wants Zeb Wells to write whatever his least favorite comic character is.
Yeah, that's true. That
Heavy
is true.
flow.
All right, folks. I believe this goes ahead and wraps up this episode. Guys in the chat, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Do you have any last minute things, ideas, or points? Throw them in the chat now. Guys, you have any last minute ads you want to throw in here?
I do.
I'm not. Nope. Sorry, Tim.
No, can't put that on, Tim.
No.
No, can't, Tim.
Who do you think? Since we talked about that earlier, that Straczynski at one point was toying with doing GrimJack. The Russo brothers just a couple years ago were. Who do you think would be a good live action GrimJack?
So you said a roughed up.
I think a roughed up Pit,
that
but
Pit,
you know what?
yeah.
As I think about it too, I think maybe because GrimJack is older, Clive Owen might be able to play the shit out
Oh
of that.
yeah, Clive Owen would be awesome.
I think Clive Owen could do that. I think I'd rather see him do that character.
I'm gonna say even, and not just because he gets cast seemingly in either cast or fan cast in seemingly every comic movie, but I'm gonna say Carl Urban.
Oh, yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, I would just say Carl Urban would be a good choice too.
Thank you, Bougie. Liam Neeson. Yeah. Oh, you know what?
It'd be an interesting choice.
What's the dude? The dude. Gosh, the guy that played Strider in Lord of the Rings. I can see
That
him-
is
Viggo
Morrison.
Viggo Morrison. Yep.
Yeah,
yep,
he'd be
Viggo
good.
Morrison.
He'd be real good.
Oh,
You
did
know-
you all?
I'm gonna
did you
change
all-
my answer to Viggo Mortensen.
What's that?
What?
I said I'm gonna change my answer
To
from
Viggo-
Carl Urban
What
to
is that?
Viggo Mortensen.
Actually, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't know if y'all have seen Eastern Promises that he was in.
Yes,
Oh my God, what a great movie!
that scene when he looks at the guy and he's like,
And there's a bathhouse scene where he is buck ass naked fighting these two big Chechenian dudes in the bathhouse, and it's like, oh my God, what a brutal fight!
"Oh yeah, he whooped their ass too."
Yeah.
So
But-
I got one more I want to add
Oh,
here.
Dolph
Oh,
Lundgren,
fuck.
that's a good pick too.
I was gonna say Frank Grillo from Avengers.
Yeah,
when
Frank
he played
Grillo.
Crossbones.
Oh, you know what? Kurt Russell would be a good choice.
Oh, you know what? I think Kurt Russell could be a good choice there. You know, I like. I think these. I like Viggo. I think I like Viggo. And Clive Owen too, though. You know, God, it's got to have a face that's got character. You know, it can't.
Yeah.
You know, because that's why I was saying a roughed up Brad Pitt. You know, but I think
He's
Pitt might still be too pretty. He's too pretty. We need a
He's
face.
He's a pretty
roughed up
nature
Brad
boy.
Pitt. So it would just be so they would just let Angelina Jolie beat the shit out of him before every take.
There you go. Well, you know, I was thinking more like The Attitude, the Pitt movie about Manson. What was that? What was the name of that again? He played the stuntman in that movie. I loved his attitude in that.
Oh yeah, Once Upon
a Time in Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, he won an Oscar for that. Yeah.
That's
No,
true,
I'm
he
not
did.
posting that either, Tim.
Bitch!
I mean, the poor people watching, like, what is Tim posting?
It's
Yeah.
morbid time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh well. All right, folks. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Put it to bed. This is the Codex Station Comic Character of the Week. I am your host, Sal the Slab Guy. Down below is Dan the Man Kelly. Right over there is the Ric Flair of comics, the preacher of lore, and of course, we can't do anything without this guy right next to me, J Dub, the master mold of the Codex Station.
I would like to say one thing to you fellas. I want to thank you all for taking this deep dive on this. And did you enjoy it? Are you happy that you read
Yes.
about
Yep.
the character?
Yes, because now I'm gonna get some issues now. I gotta buy
Okay.
some issues.
So, will all of you, if you find good looking issues, especially the Truman covers, are you all going to pick them up?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
Absolutely.
then that's great. That makes me feel great that you liked it enough that you would want to add some of these to your collection. I think that is cool.
The only thing that has prevented me from thus far from getting the ones I found on eBay, because they're all a good price, is the same thing that prevents me from ordering stuff online a lot, and it's just the shipping. Like,
Yep.
all right, I found a good price. I can get, I can get 20 issues for $15, but then I'm paying another $15 on shipping too. And I feel like I'll be able to find them. I'll be able to wait till Baltimore and find a pretty good amount of them. Where I won't have to pay the shipping on them.
Well, again,
Absolutely.
I thank y'all for taking this deep dive into a character y'all had no idea about, and the fact that and what a cool name, GrimJack. That's just a great name.
And I don't know if it's one of the, like I said, I only read about a third of the issues. I would like to be able to read them at my leisure without having to cram to make sure that I get that I've read enough that I can actually talk about the character with some level of authority, because like I said, it's not a fast read. It's something that really demands you take your time and sit down with it. But I love noir, so the way it's written is that style that I like. But I definitely want to pick some more up in the future.
Well, that makes me feel great. So I'm glad that y'all took the dive, and I'm glad that y'all really found a lot, to like about this character that I think is kick-ass and cool, and just total, just a great look, a great package of a character.
Definitely.
Real fast, I'm gonna say I got 3 things real fast before we cut. Gary, it was an honor to go over this character, so never feel bad. You've opened doors for me personally in my comic book collecting experience to broaden my horizon more and more. I even texted you the other day, like, hey, give me some books. Let me know. Like, let's talk.
Right, and I've got more coming. I just gave you
just give me the out-of-the-box stuff that no one's probably heard of. Secondly, my pick was Jeffrey Dean Morgan, by the way, if anyone cared.
Oh, that's we didn't ask you. That is really a great idea.
You did.
No.
Now you skipped him over.
Yeah.
Like you tried to skip over Gary.
I'm sorry. But Jeffrey Dean Morgan is a great choice.
I'm sorry.
Great choice.
Sorry, Jamie. I apologize.
I'll
suspend
him,
myself.
I think would be great. Just you were talking about character and switching, that to me in my head always. And lastly, Uncle Gary, tell them where we can find Comic Logic and everything that they're going to be doing for LockCon.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. All right. Comic Logic, Loudoun County, Virginia's only comic book store. Please come see us. We have one last big event that we'd had our trifecta of events. We got one left, and you can still join the party. That is LockCon. That is going to be this Sunday, the 19th. We will have mini Comic Con in our parking lot. We're going to have 40 vendors. We're going to have old books. We'll have new books. We will have action figures. We will have local authors, local artists. We'll have jewelry, toys. There'll be just a great amount of things for you to come look at and peruse. And you can meet Comic Logic folks. We will all be there, all the owners. You'll see Rob Kalin, the principal owner, myself, my best friend Mike Harbour, who will be on this show in a few weeks. On June 6th, we have a very special show. Just a little hint. June 6th will be the 80th anniversary of D-Day. So think what character we might have special.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Feel it already.
Yeah, I can feel it already. So Mike Harbour, and the other great thing is you may see some Codex royalty there too. Dan Kelly and Sal, the Slab guy, will be there with your families, fellas, or just solo?
No, I'll be with the family.
With families, so that's even more special. Even more special to see the people that put up with these fellas, and you'll meet the gal that puts up with me too. You meet that fierce redhead that puts up with me too. So please come see us. We would love to have you by. And J-Dub, thanks for giving me another call out for Comic Logic, Northern Virginia, Loudoun County's only comic book store. Come see us. LotCon. Well, the cloudy skies are going away. We think we'll have a good day Sunday. So
Gary will be there dressed as GrimJack.
It might be too hot for that. That's a lot of outfit he's wearing.
That is true. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this wraps up our episode for Comic Character Week. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did giving it to you. So, folks, we will see you next week, and I hope you guys have a 9.8 day.
We will see you next one.